Hi from now, who has watching this video. I hadn't filming new videos for a long time, and now I decided to film this video on unusual way for me. As maybe you know, in previous videos I tried to make these videos to improve my pronunciation and level of my English. It was like my video diary where I shared a little partly of my life at that moment, my thoughts, and also I made videos where I shared the words that I had been learning. Now I want to share a little few days of my daily life in a small village in Ukraine, when the first real warm came at the beginning of May this year. And in these few days was very much season work that we have to do. When I woke up, first as usual made my things in the bathroom, then began to make morning exercises while water in the kettle boiled. I stretch and knead my muscles intensely. It really helps to feel much better since the morning and during the whole day. In the morning I always try make the notice in my diary, read book in English and learn English in the app on my phone. This is morning routine to train my brain. Also read the latest news that I didn't make before the war started. Then I had a breakfast, made my bed and changed my clothes for work and went outside. First I was feed the animals. We have many of cats. It's almost like a cat shelter, and one lovely dog. We named him Tarzan. He looks like a fox, and it makes fun all people. This day is pretty warm outside, not like in previous days. This year the spring shows itself to be very cold. Many cloudy and rainy days. As an example, it could be a week cloudy and rainy, then maybe one or few days sunny and slightly warmer, and then another week cloudy, cold and rainy, and so on all spring. Then I began to practically dismantle the carport. We have two cars. One is in the garage, the second is under the carport, which is closed for the winter and partially opened in the summertime, because in winter we drive only one car. Then I started to prepare the wire to screw some parts of the greenhouse before we cover it with plastic wrap. And the screwing process itself, I think it will hold, well, at least enough for a season. As I said, the last days was cloudy and rainy, and this is a proving of my words. Further I'll fix this problem, so the water doesn't accumulate in this place and does not stretch the plastic film. In the next process, we unwind the polyethylene film from the roll to even size 2 pieces. We had to cut 2 even pieces. Then these two pieces are soldered using an iron and a special film that covers the top and prevents the main film from melting. We only make it when buy a new roll of the polyethylene film.
Got the kick.
Usually such a film is enough for 2 or 3 seasons of use. In the next process, we cover the greenhouse with that plastic sheet that we just glued. Stretch it, and I start hammering the planks with a hammer and nails. Today the weather smiles at us and allows us to do it together, because usually at least 4 people are required. When a small wind starts to blow, it inflates the film like sails, and it is difficult to keep it if there are a few people. And at the moment it's very calm, but the wind starts to rise as soon as we cover the greenhouse. We can say that we managed to do it on time. The film must be well stretched so that there is no sagging, and in those places water from the rain doesn't accumulate. It was really wonderful weather today, that since the very beginning of this day I was very motivated, and all day had a great mood. Particularly it was because of weather, and of course that I started made something that I didn't make before. It is filming how is going my days. It is very new and exciting for me, not just speaking in front of a camera. When we finished make this process, we had a little break and had a lunch, because we needed energy and power to do more things further. Then, as I said, the wind started to blow, and if we dragged out the time to cover the greenhouse, then we would not be able to cope with this number of people. We would have to call the neighbors for help. In the next process, we started moving seedlings boxes from one greenhouse to the one we had just covered with the polyethylene wrap. It was needed to prepare a place inside the greenhouse to cultivate the soil and further to plant in the seedlings. Started blowing the wind, and sometimes sky started covering with clouds. But it wasn't cold outside, especially when you do physical work like this. Then, when we moved all seedlings boxes from one greenhouse to another, before cultivating the soil, it was necessary to scatter fertilizer in order to improve the life of plants and the amount of vegetables that they will give. In our case, we scatter the ashes. It helps very well to loosen the soil and gives the plants the necessary components for life. Then I am watering the soil, as that part of greenhouse was covered with polyethylene film pretty long time ago, since the beginning of spring, and the soil inside it now very dry and hard, almost like a stone, and it will be very difficult for me to cultivate if not wet. After I watered it, then gave it a little time to absorb water and dry a little. And at this time I was connecting the cultivator to the electrical network and setting everything up. Then started the process of cultivating the soil. In this place the soil was still a little hard and it was a little difficult to cultivate it. But after a while I got over it pretty well. This is our cat, we called it Murko. But at this moment I redact in this video, he already dead. He was hit by car. We miss him. He was a very good and funny cat. But that was not to change. I was just a little worried that I would not harm myself with such physical exertion. Because as I already said in the previous video, in the fall I had an operation to remove my appendix. After I finished this process of cultivating the soil, I began to level the soil with a rake, or we also call this process volocit, or in English I think it can say to drag. This is the last preparation process before planting and it's very important to level the soil from the ditches. Then we started to plant the seedlings of cucumber. This is not so fast process, but we tried to hurry up to make all things that we started and that we planned on this day. While I was digging holes, my brother carefully pulled cucumber seedlings from polyethylene pots so as not to damage or break the plants, and carefully buried them in holes. Then, when I had a free minute, I helped pull the plants out of the pots and sorted them into holes. Also, when all the plants ran out, I went to the greenhouse to pick up a batch of new ones. Then again, when my brother planted the whole row of plants, I dug a new one. Then pulled the plants out of the pots, scattered them in the pits, went for a new batch of plants. And this continued until then, until we are all done. Then, when we are done with planting the plants, the next step is very important. You need to water all the plants well with water. And this is the final work for this day. We are all very tired after such an intense day and deserve a good rest. Then after when all work well done, we went for a walk on the field with beautiful view and wonderful first warm evening. The next day, intensive work continued, only in other parts of our garden. Now I have been cultivating the soil out of our second greenhouse. Then, inside that second greenhouse, I felt my muscles after such intense work. Just look at this, without any word. Just wonderful. I very love this part of the year. Then, after I finished the process of cultivating the soil out and inside the second greenhouse, I had a little rest. At the time, brother leveled or dug the soil with a rake, and we started to plant the seedlings of potatoes. Well, this time it was almost the same as the previous day. Just before digging holes, I drew straight lines with a special scriber, so that everything would be smooth and beautiful. Sometimes I took metal pins and put them in the soil along the path and in places near tomato plants that lie on the ground. Also, these plants are without pods, but you need to cut off all the lower branches so that they do not lie on the ground. This day also was great, wonderful weather outside, but this is not for long. Then weather forecasters transmit again a cold snap and rains. This day we also very hard worked and were very tired in the evening. And although I felt every muscle in my body and was tired. Why do I try? Why do I try? Why don't you tell me why I can't sleep at night? I felt very happy and grateful for everything that is. Then the very main process is watering the plants. Why do I try? Why do I try? Why don't you tell me why I can't sleep at night? Why do I try? Why do I try? Why don't you tell me why I can't sleep at night? Why do I try? And again, after an intense day, an evening walk with magical views in perfect weather. The third day, and it was the last day before again began raining and getting colder. On this day, I intensely tried to finish with the cultivation of the soil. We also plant early potatoes and cabbage. I have made little video because I completely filled up with the memory on my phone. In the last video at the end of that year, I said that I began to make notices every day in my diary, and I made it every day by now. And what I want to say, that it really beats fruits. Now it's really easier for me to think in English. Of course I made a lot of mistakes, but I could think in English and write it down. The next day, as I said, it started to rain in places and it got a little colder. For most of the day, I drove a car, taxied, so to speak, went to the city of Kamensk, which is 20 kilometers from my village. I very love to drive a car, and basically that's all what I did during that day. In the evening, as always, a walk. This is our dog. We call him Tarzan. He knew a few comments. Almost every day the weather like this. Yesterday it was raining. Today there wasn't raining. All work well done. I'm cultivated this part, this, and that. And also that part. And out the greenhouse. When it got cold outside and sometimes it rained, one man lost control and crashed into a tree near our neighbors. It is very good that at the time we were on the street and saw everything and managed to help in time. Thank God that man is alive and well. In the accident he was saved by a seat belt. So please always fasten your seat belt when you drive.
Take all the time that you need. I know that you worry.
Well, now I shared a small part of how my days go. It's very unusual for me to shoot videos in this way, but I think it might be interesting for someone to watch, or at least for me after a while. Thank you for watching this video and see you later.
Your heart is drifting out of reach, head underwater, I'm swimming harder, trying to keep this alive. Gotta find my way to you, now that our love has